Are watching Chili Boy Productions. I'm Larry Chili Boy Chilson, and this is my review for Knock at the Cabin. Before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. Knock at the Cabin is a 2023 horror thriller. Directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the film follows a young girl and her parents are taking a nice vacation up at a cabin when they are approached by a group of armed strangers who demand they make an impossible choice for the greater good of humanity. As time runs short, this family must decipher reality from fiction and decide what they believe. Back at the Cabin stars Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge, and Rupert Grint. I was actually really excited for Knock at the Cabin. I am all about queer-led stories, clearly. And I'm excited to see more stories revolving around queer people that don't make that the focus, that aren't about gayness in any kind of way or identity in that sort of fashion. Alphabet Mafia has been one of the community's strongest in support of the horror genre for decades, while never really getting to see their identity brought to the forefront. Knock at the Cabin really presented some exciting new territory for me. Not to mention, I thought the trailer was fantastic. The premise seemed great. However, I've been through this song and dance before. Many a times, M. Night Shyamalan has gotten me excited for his films, see Old, and, well, I turned out really not enjoying them. Definitely went in with some trepidation. I didn't expect to walk out actually enraged, really quite upset with what I had just watched. I actually think the filmmaking is some of Shyamalan's best, that we'll get to in a moment. However, it left me feeling not just like gross or not just uncomfortable, it left me feeling angry, and not because I was supposed to feel angry. Yeah, I have a lot of problems with Knock at the Cabin. So let's go ahead and start things off with the positives. Get it out of the way because I already mentioned it, but this is some of M. Night Shyamalan's best directing of his entire career. The film is really well executed on so many different fronts. I actually think it's quite well paced. Overall, it has the shock value, but it doesn't go overboard on the twists and turns like he is so want to do. Honestly, this feels like Shyamalan really honing in on his craft in many ways as a filmmaker behind the camera, not necessarily as a writer behind the keyboard, though. So let's make that clear. Shyamalan, as a director, feels honed in more than we've seen him in the past, and that really helps to provide a more coherent film overall. I also think our performances are fantastic. I am in love with Ben Aldridge. Let me just say that right now. I have the biggest crush on him, and I think he's so talented. He is amazing in this film. Jonathan Groff is amazing, and I'm so happy that two gay men were cast in these leading roles as gay characters, getting to play these characters. I think that's fantastic. And clearly, they were more than up for the task because they both were amazing with really wonderful chemistry. Batista is also fantastic here in a really awkwardly constrained performance. His character is something unlike he's played before in all of the best possible ways. He's a pure delight in this film. Special shout out to Kristen Q, who plays the daughter here, who plays the little girl. She is one, adorable and so charismatic, but two, amazing. She's so fantastic. And I think as a small family unit with Jonathan and Ben, they all have this wonderful chemistry that really rang true. And like all Shyamalan films, I feel like it starts interesting. It starts with a premise that I thought I was going to enjoy or like, and then it devolves into something I really, really did not enjoy. So let's go ahead and let that segue us into the negatives. My negatives all come down to the script. I'm just going to say that here and now. One, we tell this story through weird flashbacks that doesn't really add much to the current day story. It just kind of like flashbacks to give us backstory for our couple. It wasn't really needed. I don't know why we couldn't have just spent a little bit of time with them to begin with and then led here, but it is what it is, I suppose. The flashback formula just didn't work for me in general. A lot of these close-up shots and the framing actually was quite awkward. So while I think this is some of Shyamalan's better direction in his career, it still has some ways to go. Like we're literally cutting people out of frames for no reason. There's no real good development for that. We're zoomed in to build tension where there wasn't really tension needed. The music and the setting already did that. Just some awkward shot selections. Certainly much less than in films like Old, but still can iron those out. But the big problem is the screenplay. The script is so muddled and messy that it left me feeling really, really kind of gross, actually. Honestly, I would almost describe this as some sort of religious dogma masquerading as an open, warm, inclusive film about empathy. And that's what made it feel almost insidious. And to be honest, I don't really know that M. Night Shyamalan meant to do any of this. I actually don't think he did, but that's how I interpreted it. And I can only speak from my own perspective. So if that's not how you viewed the film, good on you. But that's how the film made me personally feel. This is actually quite an overtly Christian message, which is fine, but it disguises itself as some sort of open minded acceptance piece. We're meant to believe that the fact that the couple is gay is actually a positive, but in reality, it comes back to feel quite targeted towards that community, especially when we get down to what needs to happen. Yeah, the message is terrible. That's horrible optics for me. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it, but what has to happen, translated into real world allegory, is a wretched message. A lot of ways, they're stand ins for humanity and the sins of humanity. And it makes it just feel like that's why they were chosen, even though it's made to feel like it was just at random. No, uh, as a screenwriting technique, it wasn't at random, actually. I was quite angry. At the end of it all, I was quite upset. Really? And since I don't think that's really the takeaway Shyamalan intended, I don't know what the takeaway he intended is. Is it empathy? Is it? I don't get it. It doesn't have a good point. It doesn't stick the landing on what it's trying to say. So it really says nothing of substance and lets the insidious underbelly of this inclusive casting come to the forefront. So yeah, I hated the ending. I hated where we go in this film and what message that sent. Furthermore, it's all just overwrought and ridiculous as well as muddled. Dialogue doesn't work that great either. Once more, not as bad as Old's stilted, terrible dialogue and line delivery. However, it is still not genuine or authentic. It has a very pro religion type of message that laughs straight in the face of anyone who doesn't believe at points. Once again, basically calls you a liar, calls you a fool, says you just make up stuff to believe it and that you don't really believe it. Yeah, all of that kind of messaging is ripe in Knock at the Cabin. And that's why it feels so gross to me because it feels like it's trying to pass off as this empathetic inclusion piece when in reality, as I said, it feels a whole lot closer to some sort of weird religious dogma that I just couldn't get behind. So overall, Knock at the Cabin was a huge disappointment. A film I was really anticipating, really looking forward to, and one that ultimately decided it was going to attack me as an audience member. Not in fun horror ways, but on a more gross feeling personal level. I didn't enjoy it. I left angry. In many ways, I left feeling like I was worse off for having seen that type of film. Aldridge and Jonathan Groff, you deserved so much better, as did your characters. And moving forward, let's be clear. When I say I want more gay leads in horror films, give us fun slashers. Give us final boys that aren't shrouded in shame like Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Give us fun horror films, allegorical mess like this. Really, I mean, I can't recommend Knock at the Cabin. I don't know if other people are going to come out feeling like I feel right now. Probably not. Y'all are probably going to think I'm sensitive, SJW. But once again, this I can only speak from my own perspective, and this is how I feel. So I can't recommend it, and that's just kind of where I stand here. I'm really, really disappointed with Knock at the Cabin. So that was my review for Knock at the Cabin. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Have you seen Knock at the Cabin? Are you hyped to check it out? Let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.